On second class of acid-base, we'll discuss about buffers. A buffer is a substance that has the ability to bind or release hydrogen ion in solution, thus keeping the pH of the solution relatively constant despite the addition of considerable quantities of acid or base. The buffering capacity of a particular weak acid is best when the pKa or the dissociation constant of that acid is equal to the pH of that solution. So for the urinary buffer, the pH is 6.5 to 6.8, or the blood it is pH 7.4. So the substance that have pKa for that pH of that solution of blood or urine close to the pH of normal is the best buffer for that. First, we will discuss about urinary buffers. So urinary buffers are present in the tubular lumen that will bind or release hydrogen ion in the tubular lumen to maintain the pH of tubular fluid or urine constant. So the three important urinary buffers are bicarbonate buffer, phosphate buffer, and ammonia buffers. First we'll discuss bicarbonate buffers. So bicarbonate buffers basically mop up the hydrogen ion and form H2CO3, which dissociate into CO2 and H2O in the presence of an important enzyme called carbonic anhydrase enzyme. And this carbonic anhydrase enzyme is abundantly present in the brush border of proximal convoluted tubules, whereas they are not so much present in the distal convoluted tubules. That's why there is no dissociation of H2CO3 in the distal convoluted tubules, and this carbonic acid remains undissociated in the distal tubules and excreted as such in the urine. And this is the mechanism by which bicarbonate reabsorption occurs from the tubular lumen along with buffering the hydrogen ion. This is a very good buffer as its pK is of 6.4 near to the urinary pH of 6.5. So before going to the next buffer, we'll discuss in details about bicarbonate reabsorption. It is a very important topic for exam purpose also. So bicarbonate is freely filtered by the glomerular membrane. So we can calculate easily the filtered amount of bicarbonate equal to GFR multiplied by the concentration of bicarbonate in the plasma, which is normally 24 milliequivalent per liter, and as we know the GFR is 125 ml per minute. So you can see by multiplying the GFR and plasma concentration of bicarbonate ion, 4320 milliequivalent per day of bicarbonate filtered from the plasma in the glomerular filtrate, of which only 1 milliequivalent per day amount of bicarbonate excreted along with urine. That means more than 99.9% of bicarbonate are reabsorbed when they passes through the renal tubules. of which nearly 85% of bicarbonate are reabsorbed in the proximal tubules. 10% of bicarbonate are reabsorbed in the thick ascending limb, and only 4 to 5% of bicarbonate are reabsorbed in the distal tubules. So bicarbonate reabsorption. So one important thing is that bicarbonate ions which are filtrate from the plasma by the glomerular membrane is not readily permeate the luminal membrane of the tubular cells. So this is not permeable or cannot transfer through this tubular membrane and cannot enter within the tubular cells. Now this bicarbonate ion that will bind with hydrogen ion and form H2CO3. And now this H2CO3 in the presence of carbonic anhydrase enzyme which is present in the brush border of renal tubules dissociated into H2O and CO2. Now CO2 is a gas and it is lipid soluble, so the CO2 can easily go through the tubular membrane and enter inside the tubular cells. Inside the tubular cells, the carbon dioxide bind with H2O and again form H2CO3. And this H2CO3 in the presence of carbonic anhydrase enzyme again dissociated into H plus and 1HCO3 minus. The H plus that is formed is recycled as it is secreted again into the renal tubules. The bicarbonate formed in the renal tubular cells diffuses out through the basolateral side and enter the peritubular capillary. So this is the bicarbonate which has been filtered, that will bind, that cannot pass through the tubular cell membrane, and it will bind with hydrogen ion forming H2CO2 that will dissociate it into H2O and CO2. Now this CO2 will pass through the membrane and go inside the tubular cells. Inside the tubular cells that will bind with again to H2O and from H2CO3. This HCO3 again dissociated into H plus and HCO3 minus. This H plus secreted by the tubular cells, whereas the HCO3 minus reabsorbed from the basolateral side and enter to the peritubular capillary or blood. So this is the mechanism how the bicarbonate reabsorption occurs. So for each molecule of bicarbonate removed from the tubular fluid, 1 mole of bicarbonate diffuses from the tubular cells into the peritubular capillary or blood. But it is not the same bicarbonate that disappeared from the tubular fluid which entered the peritubular blood. That is the reason it is also called bicarbonate reclamation rather than bicarbonate reabsorption. Now the bicarbonate enter across the basolateral membrane by two different mechanisms. One is sodium bicarbonate co-transport, where bicarbonate reabsorption is accompanied by reabsorption of sodium, and another is in the intercalated cell, as we already discussed, by chloride bicarbonate exchanger mechanism by exchanger protein or Bantry protein. So next is the phosphate buffers. So phosphate buffer comprises a mixture of monobasic and dibasic phosphates. So it is predominant in the distal tubules and collecting duct because the phosphates are not easily reabsorbed in the proximal tubules. So by the time the filtrate reach the distal tubules, concentration of phosphate increases because it is not easily reabsorbed in the proximal tubules. That is a reason why the phosphate buffers are predominant in the distal tubules or collecting duct. Now, these monobasic phosphates bind hydrogen ions and form dibasic phosphates. These phosphates are quite effective as urinary buffer because it has a pK of 6.8, which is again close to the urinary pH. The third urinary buffer system is the ammonia buffer. Now, this ammonia is produced in the tubular cells from glutamine. The principal reaction producing ammonia in the cell is the conversion of glutamine to glutamate by the presence of enzyme glutaminase, and which is abundant in the renal tubular cells. Now, another enzyme, glutamic dehydrogenase, catalyzes the conversion of glutamate to alpha-ketoglutarate with production of more NH4+. And subsequent metabolism of alpha-ketoglutarate produces bicarbonate ions. And these occurs both in the proximal tubules as well as in the distal tubules. pK of this ammonia system buffer is 9.1, which is not so effective. As we know, the urinary pH is nearly 6.5 to 6.8, whereas the pK of this buffer system is 9.1. So, or taking the pH of urinary pH 7, it is 100:1. So, this ammonium is equilibrium with ammonia and hydrogen in the cell with a ratio of 100:1 from a pK of 9 to 7 pH. Now, this ammonia, which is secreted from the tubular cells, which bind with the hydrogen ion presented in the tubular filtrate, and that will again produce NH4+. So, coming to the ammonium secretion, the ammonia which are produced in the tubular cells are secreted in the proximal tubules by a mechanism which is called sodium ammonium antipode, and these ammonia which are secreted in the proximal tubules are reabsorbed in the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle by sodium 2-chloride ammonium symporter, and from here it is transported and concentrated in the medulla, and it contribute to generation of medullary gradient in the medullary interstitium. Now, this ammonia in the medullary interstitium is again in equilibrium with NH3 with a ratio of NH4+ to NH3 of 100:1. So, from here out of 100 NH4+, there is formation of 1 NH3. Now, this NH3 is lipid soluble, and this is easily diffuses across the cell membrane down the concentration gradient into the collecting duct. Now, in the tubular lumen, this ammonia which is diffusing along the concentration gradient from the tubular cells to the luminal side, that will bind with hydrogen ion and form NH4+, and that maintain the concentration gradient for diffusion of ammonia, which is called non-ionic diffusion. Now, ammonia is diffusing along the concentration gradient. Here there is production of ammonia. It is coming along the concentration gradient and forming and reacting with hydrogen ion and forming NH4+. As NH3 converted to NH4+, so the concentration of NH3 decreases and the gradient is maintained so that further NH3 diffusion continues. And this NH4+, once it forms, is non-diffusible. It cannot go back. It is not diffusible like NH3, and that's why it becomes trapped in the tubular lumen, and this is called diffusion trapping. So by this non-ionic diffusion and diffusion trapping, there is excretion of ammonia and binding with hydrogen ion, and there is further excretion of NH3 and binding further hydrogen ion, and by this mechanism ammonia buffer system remove hydrogen ions, and ultimately the NH4 which has been trapped, which is called diffusion trapping, forms salt with anions and are excreted in the urine. So that is about urinary buffers, bicarbonate buffers, phosphate buffers and ammonia buffers. Next we will discuss about blood buffers. So blood buffers are generally divided into two different groups. One is called bicarbonate buffer system or open system. So it is called open system because this bicarbonate buffer bind with hydrogen and form H2CO3, and which has a property of dissociating to CO2 and H2O. Now this CO2 is eliminated or exhaled through the lungs, and that is the reason it is called open system. All other buffer systems are called non-bicarbonate buffer system or closed system. Here the buffer after reacting with hydrogen ion form a salt, which salt is excreted through the urine. So the major blood buffers are hemoglobin has the maximum contribution, then the plasma protein, next the bicarbonate, and also buffer system like phosphates. So we will discuss about hemoglobin. Now the hemoglobin, which contain NH2 or imidazole group on the intermediate histidine residue, which has the property to bind with the hydrogen ion. And this hemoglobin buffer system has the largest contribution for the blood buffers, because each hemoglobin molecule contains 38 histidine residue, and hemoglobin is present in large amount in blood. The hemoglobin in the blood has 6 times the buffering capacity that of the plasma proteins. Now the hemoglobin has a unique property. So the action of hemoglobin is unique, that the deoxyhemoglobin, when the hemoglobin is not binded with any oxygen molecule, which is also called deoxyhemoglobin, HHB or also HB, is weaker acid, and we know a weaker acid is a good buffer than of an oxygen associated hemoglobin or oxyhemoglobin HbO2. So deoxyhemoglobin or HHB is a good buffer than of the oxyhemoglobin or HbO2. Next is the plasma protein. So like the hemoglobin, the plasma protein are the next largest contributor to the buffering capacity of blood. The plasma proteins are effective buffer because both their free carboxyl and free amino groups dissociate, and they also wear their buffering action to their NH2 residue. Next is the bicarbonate buffer. Now, these bicarbonate buffer are the most important and unique buffer in blood. So this is not the major contributory blood buffers, but they are very important and they have some unique features which is very important to maintain the pH of body. So this is because the component of these bicarbonate buffer systems, that is CO3 minus and CO2, can be adjusted by the body. The plasma bicarbonate concentration is controlled by the kidney. Depending upon body condition, kidney can increase or decrease the reabsorption of bicarbonate. On the other hand, the amount of carbon dioxide which is proportional to the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is controlled by respiration. Now the pH of the extracellular fluid can be precisely controlled by this bicarbonate buffer system. Now suppose a condition where more and more H plus is added in the blood. That H plus will be taken up by the HCO3 minus or bicarbonate buffer present in the blood, and that will produce H2CO3. So suppose before this addition of H plus, the pH of the blood was 7.4. Now after addition of acids, this HCO3 minus will react with it and form H2CO3. As if this H2CO3, so if the condition is like that H2CO3 is not dissociated into CO2 and H2O, then what would happen? There will be accumulation of more and more H2CO3, which is acid, that will causes decrease in the pH from, say, suppose 7.4 to 6.1, because we know the pK of this bicarbonate buffer system is 6.1. But normally it does not happen because this H2CO3 dissociate into CO2 and H2O, and the CO2 is exhaled by the lung. So the pH from 7.4 hardly decreases to 7.2 or 7.3 only. Moreover, when there is addition of more and more acid or H plus in the blood, that H plus stimulates the respiratory center and increases the ventilation or rate of respiration, which causes exhalation of carbon dioxide, decreasing the PCO2. So that is how this bicarbonate buffer system precisely control the pH of the body. So it's very important and very unique. Next is the phosphate buffer. So they are the main intracellular buffer in the blood, though they are very important urinary buffers, but their concentration in the blood is low and therefore they are not very important blood buffer. So main blood buffers are hemoglobin, plasma protein and bicarbonate buffer, whereas urinary buffers are bicarbonate buffer, phosphate buffer and ammonia buffers. So that is all about blood buffer. On next class we will discuss regarding the disorders of acid base, and thank you for your patience hearing.